Hello, just me today. I'm going to talk about BGP flaws along with some other news articles. The first one is, I thought, the most exciting one on a blog called benjojo.co.uk. There's a guy that runs some kind of company that works with Border Gateway Protocol, and he found a whole bunch of serious vulnerabilities. I have heard a lot of people say BGP is a mess. It's even more of a mess than I imagined. Main point of Border Gateway Protocol is to announce that you are an ISP and you have a path to reach certain IP addresses. And so the only part that you normally think about is the address ranges you cover and the number of hops, the path that took to get to this point, so other routers can decide whether you are an efficient way to deliver packets or not. But there are optional attributes in the BGP packet, and apparently tons of them. It has over 32 route attribute types, 14 deprecated ones, and 209 unofficially assigned ones, officially unassigned ones. Apparently, router manufacturers are just squatting on attributes that have not been officially assigned to them yet or gone through the review process, so they can have undocumented non-standard extra features in their routers. And the way BGP works is routers that receive a packet with an attribute they don't understand simply pass it on unchanged. So this reminds me of HTML, where in an HTML web page, if you put a tag that your browser doesn't understand, it just assumes, oh, I must be an out-of-date browser, and this tag must mean something, and just ignores it. And so what this means, if you find a vulnerability in one of these non-standard proprietary attribute processors, you can send packets, and the malicious payload will be forwarded through all the other brands of routers until it hits the vulnerable one, where it will have the effect, typically causing it to drop routes and disrupt traffic. So the author made a fuzzer and found a bunch of vulnerabilities, these vulnerable routers from Juniper, Nokia, OpenBSD, Extreme Networks, and others, and then tried to notify the vendors, and the vendors ignored him, made it hard to find the security team, told him they weren't going to fix it, and basically just jerked him around and wasted his time, like they so often do, suggesting that the practices of the people who make these Border Gateway Protocol routers are really pretty bad. So it's a thing to be aware of. I think it's 25 or 30 years ago, Mudge testified before Congress that Border Gateway Protocol was really a mess and he could bring down the whole internet at any time. And it seems like that is largely still true. There's a new article that came out. I've got it here on sciencealert.com about a new technique to deal with cancer. There's a childhood cancer that forms in the muscles, which causes muscle cells to become cancerous and spread and take over more of the body. And what these authors figured out is those cancer cells are immature cells. They're like early cells that haven't differentiated yet. So they found a way to cause them to finish their development and grow up into healthy muscle cells. So this is a newer technique, and they've got 2 cancers that this works on so far, and it may work on a lot more. A new solution to cancer to just send in the right chemical to make them finish growing up. Now, this one really caught my attention because I use Python all the time. I think everybody does. And I didn't know it was this bad. They say Python is thousands of times slower than code written in other languages, which, by the way, I'm confused by, because I thought if you hit an optimized library, the library would run fast. But anyway, they say it's up to 60,000 times slower than code written in other programming languages. So they've created a new product called Scalene, which will identify where your Python is lagging so you can improve your code. And it will even tie into AI and tell you how modifications to make and rewrite the lines of code that should be rewritten to make it run faster. So this sounds very interesting. I want to see if I can add this to my classes as a project. It have a lot of good features, and see if your code really runs faster after you make the recommended changes. GM is going to use Google's AI chatbot to handle OnStar calls. They say most OnStar calls are just asking for navigation to find something, and their AI can handle that, and that'll free up their agents to focus on the more complicated questions. So this, I think, is part of what we've all been expecting, that certain menial jobs will be replaced by artificial intelligence. We'll see how this works. I sort of imagine it will be like when they started outsourcing to India and Bangladesh. For the first several years, everybody was just frustrated because the outsourced results were really bad. And you try to find some company that hadn't outsourced their stuff to get better service. I imagine the first generation of this AI assistant will probably be similarly defective. Amazon's CEO, Jassy, told their staff that they have to be in the office for 3 days per week starting in May. And now he's saying, if you don't want to comply, you can just quit. So he's apparently quite serious about this. He thinks it's not right for people to work from home anymore. They should be coming into the office 3 days a week. We'll see how that works out. And IBM's CEO is a real believer in AI. He's been freezing hiring for thousands of back office jobs, predicting that AI will take up to 50% of new jobs, and now just piled into Hugging Face's latest funding round. Hugging Face is fantastic. I'm using them a lot in my machine learning course. Hugging Face has a lot of open source large language models you can just download and run. And this is, I think, one of the main reasons why Google and I think also OpenAI's founders have said that they do not think the future of machine learning is in proprietary technology, but the open source technology is going to become the standard. And it does look like that's what's going to happen. A Japanese study has shown that exercise and cutting salt is more effective than taking medicine to lower high blood pressure. An enormous number of Americans have high blood pressure, 122 million of them, and only 1/4 of them have it under control, and most of them by taking statins and other drugs, which do have side effects. So they say losing weight, exercise, and eating less salt is more effective. So that's important to know. I mean, all right. And there's a Brazilian spyware maker. You know, there's a lot of this stalkerware, this stuff that is sold to people so you will install it on your supposedly employees or children's phones to track what they're doing. But in fact, people use it to spy on their mates and other people in illegal ways. And so this Portuguese language app, Web Detective, was used to compromise over 70,000 phones. And so hackers found a vulnerability in the web portal, and they hacked into their server, and they deleted all the connection to all those phones, inactivating all the current spying going on. And they dumped the data about the employees and internal company data, but not the company taken from the phone. So they see themselves as sort of vigilantes against stalkerware. And that's what's happened before. These stalkerware companies are making a kind of sleazy, immoral product, and they also seem to be generally kind of incompetent about securing their servers, and they tend to get hacked into. Elon Musk, in order to promote the next version of full self-driving, just took his phone and turned it on to film himself driving the car for 45 minutes, which is highly illegal. Violates laws to film yourself that way and interact with people on Twitter while supposedly driving. And he also caught things he probably didn't really want in there, like the full self-driving, trying to drive into oncoming traffic and cause a collision where he had to jump in and intervene, and so on. And it just shows the extent of progress of Tesla's full self-driving, which is still limited, and also Elon Musk's customary complete disregard of all rules and laws. He just thoughtlessly assumes that no laws apply to him, and he can just casually break them and film himself doing it and put it out there, and nothing will happen. Very much like Boris Johnson. You know, Boris Johnson lost his position in the UK as prime minister because during the quarantine, he would just barge right through, violate the quarantine, because he just assumes that all the rules don't apply to me. The rules I pass, I'm a superior life form, and I'm above obeying all rules. And Elon Musk very much believes that. These people are the kings of the earth. In a couple of centuries ago, they would be the nobility that would just casually trample on the lesser people and take their stuff. And they're still with us. They don't give them royal titles anymore, but they have the same attitude of let them eat cake. And that what they're doing, Elon Musk in particular, feels that what he's doing is saving the human race. And he's arranging that we will escape the planet in 200 years. and preserve the whole human race. And the glory of that mission means that anything he does right now to inconvenience or trample on the people around him is fully justified by his heroic mission to save the human race later, which is basically what all religious fanatics believe. They're serving a higher purpose, and therefore they're allowed to be inconsiderate and criminal now. Anyway, the last one is the latest madness in San Francisco. There have been studies showing that the amount of testosterone men has been dropping. And you remember Tucker Carlson, before he got fired off of Fox, made a big special about this guy that wanted you to shine red light on your testicles to increase your testosterone and somehow deal with this. And now there's a guy named Jeff Tang, who has started something called tea parties, where men go there and they take blood samples and measure your testosterone, and then they do things like jump in vats of ice water and stuff to try to improve their testosterone. And he claims that he has increased his testosterone without taking drugs through diet and exercise and things like that. So this is just sort of the tech pro version of the same thing, believing that testosterone levels are dropping, which apparently there's some evidence for, and believing that you should somehow do something about this by taking supplements or something. We'll see what comes of that. Anyway, those are news articles I saw. I'll have another one of these on Friday.